my name is Mariana Murillo, and I'm the host for the Semilla Project podcast. Today, we'll be talking about a topic that tends to feel a little bit confusing and distant at times, policy and legislation. But we want to break it down in a way that feels more real and accessible. I'm joined by two people who are in the middle of all of this work at the Semilla Project, Berenice and Emmet, and we'll be talking about what they do, what their role is in the legislative session, and what this means like for our communities. So can I have you guys please introduce yourselves, your name and your roles?
Yeah, I'm Berenice Estrada, and I am the Political and Economic Director at the Semilla Project.
Nice. Greetings, relatives near and far. Emmet Yepa from the Pope of Hamas. I am the Government Affairs Coordinator for the Semilla Project.
So for these roles, can I have you guys explain them in your own words, not just like the job title of it?
Sure. So in my role with the Semilla Project, it's very important that we build relationships with leaders, especially those who represent us locally, through the county, through the state level. So it's really important that we build and establish these relationships so we have that relationship, and that's what we do.
For me, similar, it's important to create those relationships with the people that we elect, the people that represent us, to ensure that we have transparency, accountability, but also to bring community members to be part of the process. They are the communities that are being directly affected by these policies, and sometimes or often they don't have a say in this process. So it's important for us to, or it's important for me and I know for the Semilla Project to bring communities up front.
What's something you guys would say is like a little surprising about your role that most people don't know about?
I think just we have those relationships we build over the years, but being able to build new relationships takes some time.
Yeah.
You build the trust. And so it's critical that we do what we can to build those relationships. And a lot of people don't know the effort, the time, what it takes to build those lasting relationships, because they are important to the people. It's who we look up to, and those who we most times elect to represent us.
Yeah, making those connections.
Yes.
Yeah. I think how much effort, for me, is how much effort we put into it. Like when it's a 60-day session or a 30-day session, it's like being there every day, right? Like waking up so early, go to sleep so late, traveling. I think some days you don't eat because committees go long, floor debates go for hours. So I think that's definitely, it's a lot of work that we put into it that maybe not many people know. But
it's like kind of like a schedule that you'll never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like you leave for that, for that 30, 60
This is
days.
your role for the 60 days. That's all you're doing.
And my introduction was a 30-day session, which I'm kind of grateful.
Yeah.
I know there's a 60-day. So next year is going to be 60 days. So I was fortunate to kind of make the transition into 30 days. So I was able to kind of get my bearings and kind of adjust to that kind of lifestyle, because you really have to embody the lifestyle to really be truly present in the moment, because you're in committee hearings, you're in the floor sessions, you're doing office visits, and I'm sure we can get into that much later.
Yeah,
but
we will.
But it does take full commitment, and especially being there every day.
It's like your baby.
It's like...
Yeah, I also started on a 30-day session, my first time.
You guys are like, you guys started with the 61. It was long. But okay, before we get into kind of the legislative session, I just want to ask you guys, what brought you into this work?
For me, I immigrated from Torreon, Coahuila, Mexico, and I grew up in Santa Fe, and I grew up undocumented. I was an undocumented student facing challenges to access higher education, access resources to continue my education. And I joined the immigrant rights movement in Santa Fe, and I was organizing youth and in the high schools and middle schools, encouraging them to access higher education, helping them with the process of writing a resume, applying for scholarships, So there was a point of my life where I was like, this is good for my community, but this is not enough, because a lot of those challenges come from how the government works and how these policies are being made. So there is some more that we can do, and I wanted to do more for my community. And that's when I was like, this is not enough for me. I wanted to change policy. I wanted to be able to advocate for immigrant communities about the things that are affecting them directly, right? For example, like having driver license for undocumented people in New Mexico, having free in-state tuition for undocumented people. So I think that's what brought me to this work, because I wanted to do more. I wanted to ensure that I was not just, I knew I could do more.
Yeah. Like you started young, but you wanted to reach more people, help more people kind of thing.
Yeah, and bring them, like I mentioned earlier, bring frontline communities up front in this process.
Making their voices heard.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. For me, my story, what brings me to this work, begins when I was in Jemez, born and raised in Jemez. So being a Pueblo person is very special, and it's who I am. It's not kind of who it is. It is who I am, and it's something that's very important to me. So what brought me to this work was growing up on the reservation. I give my whole life to my family. They're the ones who instilled the values I live by every day. They taught me the importance of protecting Mother Earth. They taught me the importance of just really doing what you can to preserve our resources for the next generations. And so just living on the reservation, growing up on the reservation was a special time, is a special time. And the values I live by guided my life and have taken me to very special places. For example, I was able to establish a recycling group in my community.
Wow.
So there wasn't a recycling group in my pueblo until I enlisted a couple of friends. We're in high school learning about the importance of recycling. And so we realized the need to do something about recycling. Like I said, I'm from Jemez Pueblo. For those of you who do not know, gonna kind of set the scenery. The landscape is very beautiful.
Yeah.
The mountains are very colorful. We have the river. We have just a lot of beauty in our land. And so growing up with those values that were instilled in me, I knew it was important to protect it and to make sure our community was kept beautiful.
Yeah.
So I enlisted a couple of friends, as I stated, and we thought it was important to establish the program. So with the support of tribal leadership and the support of our families and our friends, we went ahead and established recycling for the first time in Jemez. And so using that as kind of my passion, I went on with my life, went to school, went to different programs. I was in this program called the Summer Policy Academy. So that was also instrumental in my life and learning kind of indigenous native policies and the importance of them kind of was always in the back of my mind and my heart. So I knew one day I would kind of be in this position to be the voice for my people and be there for those who can't, for example, at the Roundhouse. And it's very important to me that I be there to represent my people and just all BIPOC communities, which is Black, Indigenous peoples of color.
So it's kind of sounding like you both started off with a smaller community, like you with your school and you with your pueblo. How was that transition like, going from such a small community to now going to such a broad, like different big communities?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, I'm just meaning like you guys seem to have started with a smaller community that you were wanting to help out. So for you, it was like your school. For you, it was your pueblo. So how was that transition like now, working with way more people, being a voice for more people, stuff like that?
Well, for me, I spent my whole life in Jemez up until like I was in high school, and then I transitioned into kind of this like going to school in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
So I think that really helped me transition to kind of knowing what's outside of the reservation and what's outside of the community. So I went to the Native American Community Academy. And so they were important in my life as well, and a huge stepping stone in my story of life. And being able to be in Albuquerque for school and go on to go out of state for school, for college, and just being able to experience all of that kind of made me realize that there's so much more out there in the world. So when I transitioned into this role, it just kind of made that easier for me, knowing that there's that out there and that I'm kind of comfortable in those situations where there's a lot of people, especially those who aren't from my community. And so all that led up to that point.
For me, I think just knowing the intersection between environmental justice and racial justice, like knowing, like I started organizing in the immigrant race movement, but then understanding how it intersects with environmental, right? Like the inaccessibility of our communities, like knowing like they are the most affected by the climate change, right? And climate change is happening right now. And we often tend to think like, oh, it will happen in 100 years. It's like it's already happening. It's already impacting our communities. So getting exposed to that broader situation of like, it's my people of color that are being affected. It's by this, like the lack of jobs, the lack of accessibility to clean water, right? To protect the outdoor spaces. So I think it was what like opened my mind to a broader.
That's beautiful.
Kind of want to touch on the climate change. I think it's very prevalent. It's very real and very now. just the season, seeing how much it didn't snow was alarming.
I know, yeah, it was weird.
And in
I don't know.
Jemez,
And it's so
we have
hot.
the Bosque, like a river, and there's not as much water. And it's sad, and water is very important to our people. It's kind of how we pass on traditions. It's what we do. It's really integrated into our culture. And so not seeing as much water, it's just sad, and just makes me want to fight even more to do what we can to for example,
Make that
pass
change.
bills and laws and legislation that will protect and preserve for future generations, so they can have the same access and resources that we did in our
Yeah, like
adults in the
seeing that
past
makes
had.
you want to fight harder for it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay, I want to dive a little into the legislative session now, just a little recap of it. So we'll start off a little light. Like, what was a day in the life typically at the legislative session?
Day in the life.
Arriving early, leaving late.
our primary goal to start really broad was to be there every day.
Yeah.
And so just knowing that you're going to be in Santa Fe for 30 days is already kind of the mindset that I had.
Yeah.
And so
It's like your new home for the next 30 days.
exactly. And so I knew I had to commit daily to the traveling, which is to
How
Santa
far
Fe.
was it for you guys?
So Albuquerque, Jemez, Bernalillo area. That's where we
Gosh.
bedded from Albuquerque.
Yeah, for me, it was like 55 minutes. Yeah.
There's an option to ride the train, but
yeah.
it's really, our schedule is really inconsistent.
It's not
so
the most convenient, for sure.
Sometimes it's good, and I took the train sometimes, but sometimes you have to drive because either
Yeah.
committee starts super early or they finish super late, and then you don't
Yeah,
get
and
to
then
ride
if you
the bus.
drive too, the parking sucks sometimes too.
I know.
So it's like
There's so much people there.
and there's no set schedules of the day. Like we can't say,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to be there for 6 hours today. Or
But usually a day, how it would look like, it's like arriving. We had a plan for depending, some days we already had a bill that I was going to be heard in a committee or on the floor, right? So like talking to legislators, educating them, and also knowing like we might need to do some office visits, right?
Yeah.
We need to prepare some people for testimony. So it will depend. But I think overall that was like a typical day. And then just sitting down for hours.
yeah.
and what I learned too on the 30-day session, every day, everything moves faster.
Oh, really?
And so what I've learned from Bede is like on a 60-day, like some committees could be like scheduled like further out, whereas
Yeah.
sometimes committees will be scheduled the day after or 2 days after. So it's quick turnarounds on a 30-day session. So which I kind of appreciated because
You're
it
kinda
gave us
getting it out
something
of
to
the
do.
way.
Yeah. So the process is quicker, even though it's a budget session. It was very awesome to see and just to experience, and I'm super grateful for the experience. And just to kind of go into our scheduling more of the days, we arrive, we make sure we check in with one another, we bed in and have a great working relationship, check in on each other's, make sure, did you eat, did you get your water? Here's where
Taking care of each other.
if someone's
sure
there,
you're sane.
if someone's there first, make sure you let them know where it is. Or sometimes rooms change for committee hearings.
Last
or,
minute.
Yeah,
just like
so
at the last second. Just
Yeah,
Around-
I think it requires a lot of communication, coordination. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the service there is so bad too. So I don't know
Oh yeah.
what it is.
you get a
the
daily
what?
workout stairs.
Oh yeah. I thought you mean the service is
Well,
really bad.
I meant
and
the
I was like,
services.
yeah.
I
Service
guess.
or
But the
stairs?
stairs are also really
Oh, I
bad.
thought you
So
said the
yeah,
stairs. You
both
said-
are honestly really
You
bad.
said service, phone
Both.
service.
The
Oh.
And then
both
that-
are honestly.
the elevator, it's like
It always
takes forever.
forever.
I don't trust
And I feel
those
so bad
elevators.
sometimes.
Really,
I was-
I'm like
Yeah.
low-key
It's
scared of
kinda-
elevators.
That what?
I don't trust elevators.
Oh yeah.
Me
I don't want
neither.
them.
I hate when people will
But
like
it-
jump in them. Like some people, when you're going down, they like jump in the elevator.
But when you're pregnant, you want to take the elevator.
yeah.
Understandable.
You know what? Yeah, you're right. You're right. But you just have to wait like 30 minutes for it.
I know.
But also one thing I'm grateful is that Semilla, we have a Santa Fe office.
Oh, yes.
And so we were able to utilize that as a place when we needed to take a break, needed to do work. I forgot to mention a super important thing that I had to do for my role was I had to send a daily legislative report.
Oh, okay.
So this report required me to be there on a daily basis and to attend all the committee hearings and just everything that's going on so I can report back
Yeah.
to Bede and to the whole entire team.
Yeah.
So it was very critical that I was there paying attention, and it's easy to get lost, I guess.
Yeah.
Full transparency like in the session
sometimes
because
it
it
can be a
takes so
lot.
long.
Yeah.
There's a lot of debating. There's a lot of discussion, dialogue. A lot of it's meaningful conversations that's taking place. I'm there taking notes and making sure I'm capturing what I can because I had to make sure I have the info I needed to send my daily reports.
Yeah.
But it
And
was
so-
super helpful to have
Yeah.
it, right? Because it was informing our staff internally, our community, right? It was the way that we used to also transfer that information into social media for our community. So I think it was a key role.
Yeah, and then the
that
way
he
we
played.
put it
Yeah.
would just be better for us.
I sent it out to a lot of the staff. and
Yeah, I would get
it
those
ma-
every day.
I was like, when someone told me they read my report, that made me happy. I was like, oh, cool, at least someone's reading it.
That's doing it for a
it made me
reason.
happy to know that it was being read because
Yeah.
oftentimes it could be lengthy just because of all of the
Yeah.
information, and I will have to capture what bill is being heard when. So the report had to have multiple bills and what's going on, where it's going next,
But
and just the whole process.
And it helps because not everyone gets to be there, right? Like
Yeah.
we know we're there and we know what's happening, but the rest of the staff, they're doing all their programming, all their field work, right? So they cannot be the present, but it's important for us to transfer that information.
And there are times where we do like ask staff to go up to help us.
Yeah, I've been down there a few times. Well, what would be a typical reason why staff would come down other than that?
To the roundhouse?
Yeah.
Whenever we need to provide public testimony, right? Like that's our job as Emmet and I being there. But I think sometimes we need to bring more people.
Yeah.
Also, every year we have our Youth Power Day of Action at the Roundhouse where we mobilize 500 youth from different schools across the state, from Las Cruces, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and that's a project that Emmet has worked for a while in there. But it's an opportunity for our community, our staff, young people to come and learn how the process is at the Roundhouse, and also make their voice heard and make
Yeah.
presence, right? But I don't know, maybe you want to add anything.
Yeah, be happy to. So the Youth Power is like a passion project for
Yeah.
me. So when I came into Semilla Project nearly 3 years ago already, the Youth Power was the first initiative that I was a part of. And so it was something that I came in knowing it's something that Semilla Project does, and it's a huge event
Yeah.
that takes place annually now. But before that was the first year that they had it. And so I was coming on the second year. So
Yeah.
what it is we're mobilizing youth from all across the state. And so when I came into Semilla, I wasn't in the role that I am now. I was more of an outreach and going to schools, visiting schools, doing youth leadership development. And so it was important that I went to the schools, made relationships, because I would then mobilize the schools to Santa Fe to attend the Youth Power event,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is a day of action. It's a day to empower. It's a day to teach them about laws, how a bill is passed, and why it's important to voice and advocate for the communities. Because oftentimes that's a place that a lot of our youth have never been. And
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
and
I think
it's
a lot of
important to
em-
expose them to that
like
world.
the
Yeah.
empowerment for them to learn that they belong in those
Yeah.
places, right? That we belong in those places. Because for many of them, it's their first time ever.
Yeah.
Even to Santa Fe, there's a lot
Yeah.
A lot
of
of
youth who
them
have never been
hadn't
to Santa
been
Fe
there.
to that moment. And so
I
what's
think a
awesome
lot of
about
them
the
also
Semilla,
don't know what's
yeah.
there as well.
So what's awesome with Semilla is that we provide them with the opportunity. So we also provide them with transportation. We provide them with the lunch and breakfast, and all they have to do is to be present. They have to want to be there, first of all, and to be present and to learn as much as they can, because you're gonna take that. Hopefully, the seed is planted. Semilla Project seed is planted in each youth, and so one day they can also flourish and go back in a different capacity to advocate for their people.
Yeah.
Because it's important work, and it's work that needs to be done, especially if you want to have laws that protect and benefit our communities, especially those that are underserved.
Yeah. And then we had it playing in the background. You can hear it in the thing. But how many youth did you guys say attended this year?
This year, well, for every year for Youth Power, we mobilize 500. But this year we were able to mobilize 600 because we mobilized 100 youth for the Immigrant and Workers Day of Action alongside our good partners, El Centro, Somos, Un Pueblo Unido, and Santa Fe.
Shout out.
So that's why we were able to mobilize 600
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
That's crazy.
This year, kind of just recapping, kind of reflecting on this year, was a special youth power to me because I'm in this role that I am now. And when we had youth power, HB 9 was signed into law
Oh, yeah.
the day that we had youth power. So a little bit about HB 9 plus. That's a very important legislation that was passed and signed by the governor, which would ban any contract relationships with the ICE and also protect our our immigrant relatives or just anybody in general, and just ensure safety, protection of our relatives. And so that was very important. And it was special that it was passed and signed, specifically signed when we had youth power. And for those of you,
for youth to be able to see that in real time as well and see that change being made is really important.
Just little insight. For those of you who do not know, I'm a singer. I sing traditional music, and I'm a singer's songwriter. And so I usually typically do singing for a lot of Semilla events. And so when it was Youth Power, this year I sang to open up, and someone told me when the governor was signing HB 9 plus, at the same time there was a live stream when she was signing it, I was singing.
Oh wow!
At the same time that was taking place. And so that stayed with me, and that's something that's special to me personally. Just knowing that while I was singing, when I sing with prayer, I do with a good heart, good intentions. And so knowing that HB 9 plus was signed when I was singing was a special moment for me. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight that.
Yeah, no, thank you for mentioning that. And then just talking about the wins that went on this year, now that we're on that, what were some other wins that happened this year?
Yeah, so be happy to share the wins. We prioritized a number of bills. Not all of them passed, unfortunately. However, there are bills that were passed and signed that protect the well-being of our communities, ensure safety. For example, we have SB 40, which is a Driver Safety Privacy Act. So what this does is limits targeting of our community members, because it prohibits or limits license plate from being read. So that's very important. That data that's captured from the license plate being read won't be distributed to third-party entities. So ensuring that our relatives are protected, and that it's not being, the data that they're taking from license plates isn't being misused. So that was very important that was signed and passed.
We also we passed some bills, but also funding through the budget, the legislative budget. We were able to allocate 3.5 million for the Outdoor Equity Fund, which the Outdoor Equity Fund is a huge priority for the Semilla Project, right? We have been advocating since 2019, and now every year we have to come because there is a permanent funding, but it's not sustainable because the demand is high. Yeah. Right, so we were able to allocate 3.5 million. It was a long five with other partners. The Semilla Project was leading that because we want to continue bringing youth outdoors. And also create workforce development for them through the outdoors, right? Like we see that firsthand here at the Semilla Project. When we take youth outdoors, we see that it's not as a way of recreational, but it's also as a way of reconnecting with the land, reclaiming the land, protecting the land, right? And finding ways to make this their career. Yeah. We also, part of that work this year we work alongside with El Centro, Somos un Pueblo Unido, and MILC to push for a policy agenda. And part of that was accessing more funding to expand workforce development in New Mexico. And we were able to secure 3.25 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And also we passed I don't think you mentioned it, but
I was getting to it,
the HB 124 is the Office of New Americans, right? It's codifying the Office of New Americans. As an immigrant myself, and knowing my parents are immigrants, for me this bill was personal because I think I mentioned this in the Next Gen podcast, but it's like I always say this because I know what it is to have that potential of like exceeding your career, but don't have the infrastructure, the resources, right? So knowing that there is an office for workforce development that supports you if you want to get certified, if you want to get your credentials. It's amazing. And also, like, knowing how hard my parents have worked in the past, I wish they had these kind of resources back then.
Yeah, it would have been nice for them to have that back for them.
Yeah. And one of the other and last budget appropriations that we were able to do is the 70 million for the public land investment recovery packages. We know right now we need to protect our public lands. So this funding is ensuring that we protect those public lands for not only for recreation, but also for cultural purposes, and also with all the disasters that are happening, right? Like what happened in Ruidoso a couple years ago. This fund supports for that recovery of those public lands.
And talking about all these wins and everything, what is what you were most proud of during this session?
For me personally, even though it's a loss in
Yeah.
our book, it's going to be SB 18, which is a Clear Horizons Act. So unfortunately, this bill did not pass. However, it was very important to me because being a Native American, a steward of the land, I want to make sure that I want to ensure in the future, hopefully, if this is reintroduced, that there's guardrails that are established.
And what do you mean by guardrails?
So, could you help me explain that? Yeah.
Why do you use the word, Emmet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just
There's
like
a-
requirements to
Yeah.
help.
Like regulations.
Yeah,
or-
regulations. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so
Regulations.
essentially to help climate change, minimize climate change to move us towards like a just future, like if that
Okay.
makes sense. And so this is very important work that I am passionate about, just being, like I said, a steward of the land and just knowing that we got to protect Mother Earth. And that's hopefully it's reintroduced. For example, it kind of gives me hope that it's reintroduced because HB 9 took 10
Yeah.
years to pass. And so
you never know.
Yeah.
Like it can come back.
For me, I think what I feel more personal, I was more proud of, it's like HB 9, SB 40, right? Because it supports immigrant communities. As Semilla, we work with a lot of immigrant native families, and it was we brought some of them to provide testimony, and we heard how frustrating it was for them to like not even being able to drive for groceries or going to the park. Things that should be easy for everyone, like having that fear of being targeted, of being tracked. Like I think that was more personal because it doesn't only affects me directly, but it affects the community that we work with as Semilla.
exactly.
And then what were like the hardest moments throughout this session for you guys?
I can kind of pinpoint one particular day we had. Bede and I had like a 13-hour day at the roundhouse.
Oh gosh.
It was pretty insane. I've heard stories where people stay overnight, and we didn't have an
really?
experience like that, but we did have a super long day. And so I remember leaving the roundhouse. I got there when it was still super early in the morning and left when
Yeah.
it was really like late at night. And so that was one of the harder days that I had personally.
Yeah.
And it's something I can look back on and kind of use that if I ever need it to just say,
Yeah.
hey, here's what to expect. This is a possibility that could happen. And just always be prepared to,
Yeah,
if
just
that
be
ever
ready
comes
for
up
anything.
again. Yeah, just to make sure that I'm there and present, and just always maybe think that it could be a long day, and it's a lot of days are long, but that was the longest day that we had. And Betty told me that was the longest she ever stayed.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think the hardest part was knowing like the SB 18 was killed.
Yeah.
Because it was killed in the Senate floor. It was really frustrating knowing that how can people not want to have measures like accountability for climate? You
Yeah.
know, like it's like we need to protect our environment. And for me, it was like not understanding. And I think it was a long debate. That bill only got 2 committees in the Senate side, and then when it went to the Senate floor, it was for hours. I don't know how many hours it was, like 4 or 5 hours. So it was really
Wow,
frustrating
yeah.
to know they were like, that it was so much time invested, and we as Semilla and other partner organizations that we work with, we invested so much time
Yeah.
in ensuring that our elected officials understand the importance of this bill, and then just seeing it died, it was really
Seeing them not
frustrating.
stand up for it
Yeah,
when it
it
was
was like,
needed.
how can you not care about kids? How can you not care about the
Yeah.
land, the water, the,
climate,
air
yeah.
that we'll breathe together, right? Like I think it was the hardest part for me.
And just talking about that, what's the difference kind of with like a loss and then the long game kind of when it comes to a bill? I don't know if that makes
Yeah, I think sometimes we don't get what we want,
Yeah.
and it could be many reasons, right? Right now, we just to brag a little bit, we have the House of Representatives with more women and women of color leading, which is amazing, and we have seen a lot of changes. But sometimes we see things being killed, like the Clean Horizons, right? HB 9, the Immigrant Safety Act, had different versions throughout the years. And even though we knew we were not getting what we needed, what our communities needed, we know that we were working towards the long term.
Yeah.
And same thing happens with the Outdoor Equity Fund. For example, we've been asking every year for an appropriation, but we need a sustainable funding, right? So we are working now towards that. And we know that we are building that bridge in order for us to get where we need to be.
I think it's important to kind of distinguish or kind of define when it means when a bill is killed.
Yeah.
So essentially, a bill is, for it to get signed into law eventually, it's important that it's supposed to visit both sides of legislation. So that's the reason why some bills are called SB and some bills are called HB, because that's where it's introduced. So SB would be called a Senate bill.
I didn't know that actually
HB
before this.
is a House bill. And so where it's introduced is it makes its way through the process. So it's then designated to go to committees depending on what the bill is and what it's about. If it passes those committees, then it goes to the other side of the roundhouse, which would be the other side. And so it's got to pass both parties, I guess. Would it be considered parties, Betty?
The two chambers.
Two chambers, exactly. I knew that was wrong, but
It's okay.
it has to pass two chambers. If it doesn't pass the two chambers, then it dies essentially.
Yeah.
And so it was killed, and if it's killed, it doesn't go to the governor's desk, which is what we want. Because if it reaches the governor's desk, it means that there's a high likely that it's going to be passed to there and then signed. But the governor does have an option to veto the bill or do nothing, essentially just also killing it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So wanted to just define that for those
thank you
who.
for that.
Yeah. Hopefully I did okay. You can add on to it.
Oh,
if you
yeah.
want.
Yeah, I don't know if
Perfect.
you
You
wanted to
explained
add.
it perfectly.
Yeah, you explained it very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to get into just what this means for the community. So when we say a bill was passed, what does this mean for people on the ground?
Well, it means a lot, right? For example, like with the big victories on immigration that we had this year, is like people now in New Mexico, like everything happening national. New Mexico, we have been setting great protections for immigrant communities, right? So I think it's like knowing that they are going to be able to go buy groceries without fear, that they're going to be able to access medical services, like for example, so that's on the immigration side of it, but also on the workforce, like knowing that we are building that infrastructure for prosperity economic development in New Mexico.
Yeah.
Like knowing that we are there fighting for not only for us, but for or the organization, but for our communities that we represent, right? Because when I am in Santa Fe in the Roundhouse, I don't see I'm here as Bere, but I'm here as Semilla, as my community, as my immigrant community of color, workers in New Mexico that need to have a say and be part of this process.
Yeah.
For me, being there for those who can't just kind of inspires me, motivating me daily to do the work that I did.
Yeah.
And just to kind of piggyback off what Betty was talking about. So with Semilla Project, we work a lot with youth. We do a lot of programming with youth, and a lot of times we hear youth talk about how them and their families are scared to access the outdoors just because they are living in fear of that they might get taken away or they might never return back to their families. And so it's really inspiring and awesome to see these bills being passed and signed just to ensure that our relatives, our families, everyone is safe and their well-being is in good condition, because we want everyone to be happy and safe to move freely and access these different places that everyone should have comfort levels, like super comfortable accessing. And unfortunately, the realistic thing is that everyone can't access these places that with that comfort level. But hopefully with these bills that are passed, they do feel that sense of peace, and they have just knowing that these are important and set in place, that they feel better.
And then I know you guys mentioned the Semilla Project a little bit. So I just want to ask you guys, how does this work that you're doing connect to the Semilla Project's mission and vision overall?
Yeah, I think it's like we want to create, and when we talk about like what the Semilla wants to do or what aims to do, is like having resources and having long-term resources for immigrant communities, ensure that there is equitable access to the outdoors to protect the land, the water, the air, right? But also knowing that youth are the future of New Mexico. How are we setting them for success in this environment? Not only in the workforce portion of it, but like what are we leaving behind for them? Like we need to protect the environment. Like we need to ensure that they have a livable future.
Yeah.
Developing resilient leaders is kind of the vision of Semilla Project, empowering our youth, our communities, but also instilling them with tools and framework that they can use to advocate for their families, for their communities. And so it's really important that we develop them so they can have these tools to do the work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. And I think also building pathways for good jobs, right? How does good jobs look like? And Next Gen, it's an implementation that we have, but there is so much policy that needs to happen or funding that needs to come in order for us to continue doing that work. And how does that diversification of economy looks like, right? Like, because I think we also mentioned this in the previous podcast, but it's like we cannot just say we don't want this, but how are we building towards that? Like, how are we diversifying the economy? We cannot just say we don't want oil and gas jobs, but what are you bringing towards, like,
Yeah.
for that?
And I know you guys mentioned a lot about public lands, and I know we have bigger ongoing issues going on. So I wanted to ask you, what's just like a current threat to public lands that typically people don't know about right now?
Currently, Chaco's currently under like attack, I guess you can say.
Yes.
And so there's threats to kind of take away the protections of Chaco.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me as a public person, that's a very spiritual, it's a very sacred place. And it's important to the story of who we are as Pueblo people.
Yeah.
And so seeing these protections possibly being taken away for oil and gas drilling makes me upset, really hurts my heart. And just knowing that that could be a possibility without any just care of the importance, the significance of that place, for them to do that, it's just heartbreaking. And talking with my family about it, it's really not something that should be done, and hopefully it doesn't take place.
Yeah, no, totally agree. And I think it's like knowing that it was protected a few years ago by during the Biden's administration, and knowing like that now it's treated like, I don't know. I think it's really frustrating knowing that there is no regulations.
Mm-hmm. And what can people do to help this cause?
Yeah, well, right now the public comment period closed, right? But I think it's stay involved, because we always post in our social media about whenever there is an opportunity for public comment, so that people can be part of that.
Having conversations, talking about it is important, even just over the dinner table when you're having dinner with family, even as simple as that. Or if you're at work or going to school, just to have that conversation to make it allows the conversation to go even further.
Yeah.
It expands the conversation.
And it opens the lenses of the community. Yeah.
Everyone has their different values that they live by, but I think everyone is aligned in knowing the importance of Chaco and just why it should be protected and continue to be protected.
And just talking about getting involved in general, just what's the first step people can take to get involved, just in general, not just pertaining to this?
Just make awareness, like get educated, make awareness of like there's issues that are happening that are affecting us directly. And most of those things, we have a say on it, right?
Yeah,
Get involved.
we have our voice.
Yeah, our voice can be heard, and we are the people that can talk directly how this is impacting us.
Yeah.
Either ourselves, our loved ones, our community, our families, right?
I think the first step is listening to your heart and acting on that. Your heart will tell you what to do.
Values.
Yeah. And so use that as a guiding factor. Oftentimes it'll tell you, oh, you just need to ask. Just as simple as how can I get involved? Or you can do your research. You can always, depending on where or how you're trying to get involved, just give them a call or just go to the place. But for Semilla Project, we're always doing different stuff throughout the year, a lot of our programming. So everyone's always welcome anytime. Any of the programs that we're doing, just any event that we have, if you want to get involved with Youth Power, you're more than welcome to reach out to us, and just whatever we have going on, everyone's welcome.
And I think it's easier when people know, right? But there's a lot of the communities that we work with, they don't know. They have a say. They don't
know.
Yeah. I think that's the challenge that we want to break.
We are currently trying to expand into rural communities.
Yes.
And so I think providing them with those opportunities as well is important. And so we're currently in the city. And so I guess expanding into these areas who are oftentimes like underserved and don't have as much opportunities, giving them a chance to be involved is kind of something that I think we need to do more.
And I know we're talking a lot about wanting to make people's voices heard. What would you say? What would you say to someone that just doesn't feel like their voice is heard? They feel like they don't have a voice in their community. What's some advice you would give them?
I think we all have a say on it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's motivating them and knowing like, and I keep saying that because I feel like when these decisions are made, there is like corporations and lobbyists or people that are being paid to do things that they don't care about that community. But our job is to bring community to the table and ensure that their needs are taken care of. So what I will say is like, this is affecting you directly. Get involved, right? I want to mention briefly a big win that we had the last month, like a couple of weeks ago. Like I don't even know. We are in April, right? So it was like February.
Yeah.
We work alongside the county commissioners here in Albuquerque, and it was with the Bernalillo County with Commissioner Eric Olivas. We work with him on a resolution to ensure that there is regulations, because right now we're seeing a lot of AI coming into New Mexico, a lot of AI developments, and there's no regulations. There's no like anything how we can keep them accountable.
Yeah.
And a lot of people like show up to that specifically ask because they saw the need, like what's happening in other places, like in Doña Ana with the Jupiter project. Is that Jupiter? I always call it Juniper. Jupiter program, development. What is happening, like there was no regulations. Now people are trying to figure out how it looks like, right? But here in Albuquerque, in Bernalillo County, this resolution ensures that there is regulation. Like it creates the first community benefit agreements for if they want to come, they want to ensure that these jobs are staying in New Mexico. Because many of these corporations come from out of state. They do it here, and then they hire people out of state, or they hire people for like the construction and labor, and then those are not sustainable jobs, right? Like they end at some point.
And then talking about those community benefit agreements you're like bringing up really quick, what are those and why are they important?
For me, I think the most important thing is that it ensures that they hire locally.
Yeah.
And so the jobs that it brings, the economic opportunity that it brings, stays here in the community. And Betty mentioned that these large corporations coming from out of state, they bring their own employees, but the CBAs ensure that there's local hiring, which is, I think, of the most important of the CBA.
And it creates opportunities for like apprenticeships, right? Like internships to ensure that people are getting the certifications and they're getting the resources that they need to access these jobs, right? It brings community and corporations to the table for a negotiation, basically. But this resolution that I was talking about, it also creates the first ever community advisor. So a community advisor group that will ensure that they are following what they promise. Yeah. That they are not just taking tax breaks or money from our county, but that they are being transparent and accountable with what they do.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you about it since you had mentioned it in there. But we can go back to the other question about the voices.
Yeah, the voice.
Yeah, sorry, we cut you off a little bit.
For me, everyone has a voice, of course. Every voice matters. But for me, you can have a voice in various ways. I want to talk about the power of prayer. And so you use your voice and your breath like your prayer. And so I think just as laying that foundation just serves as a reminder that everyone has a voice. Prayer is important. So using that is one way you can use your voice, and you can ask in your prayer to just find the courage to bring out your voice.
Yeah.
For me, I've always been not super public speaking person, but
I get you.
being in this position requires that. And my daily prayer, I always ask for guidance and just to ensure that I have the voice that I need to be the voice for my people.
Yeah.
And so just to find that courage, just to ensure that I do the best that I can.
Yeah, and it can be hard for people to feel like their voice is heard. And if anything, it's always like you can be the voice for them if they feel like they don't have it.
But our goal is to encourage them to also use their
voice.
And then we help them to find their voice. So we do a lot of different
very good at that.
Programming that helps them to find their voice, develop their leadership, and be able to to combine those two together.
Yeah. And I think, well, for me personally, I've seen that firsthand because I feel like I came in during the legislative session like a few years ago, and I feel like I didn't have a voice. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait, actually, like it does matter. So it does really, really work. But I wanted to ask you guys just really quick, what do you think showing up looks like for you? Like for people, I don't know if that makes...
Showing up in this work?
Yeah, just showing up. What does showing up look like in this work?
I think simple things, right? Like Emmet was saying, like it could look different for everyone.
Yeah.
Like maybe prayer, maybe being present, providing public comment, even resharing a post for a call to action, right? Because, for example, for the Chaco, I know I was reading like an article like how many written comment was submitted, and it's amazing what happens with
110,000 plus. 110,000 plus.
It really does make sense.
So it's like just simple things as like because for some people, like we also understand it might not be easy to travel to Santa Fe, to go to a city council meeting, to go to a county commission meeting,
it's
right?
not always the most accessible option for everyone.
But if you're not able to do that, you can do things like you can send your written comment, like get your phone, your computer, or even just resharing a post. We all are on social media, or most of us are on social media. So it's easy things like that make the change.
It's super easy to get involved if you want to. For example, if you really feel inclined and like you really want to provide public comment, there's ways to do it. You can be in person. There's also a virtual option. You could do it via Zoom. And so there's definitely a lot of ways.
So now, how are you guys, this is kind of like a different topic now, but how are you guys recovering after this session? I know it just ended recently, so.
I haven't recovered. No.
Oh, I'm actually still in the process.
I'm trying to figure out. No, I think for me, like I've been doing this for over a decade, right?
Wow.
So for me, I know like it's demanding, it's hard, it's time consuming, but I know it's seasonal. Like I know it's seasonal, and I feel like my body has built that strain to say like
you just know when it comes up, you have to be ready.
Yeah, and I think we took some time off after the session, just recovering, being with family, with my partner, with my loved ones. I'm sorry?
A little bit of time
just
off.
take a little bit, like a few days.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just joking.
But yeah, so I think I lost my thought, but yeah.
For me, this is the first time in this capacity I was in Santa Fe for the legislative session. Before that, I was there for Youth Power, but I wasn't there in this role. And so I knew what to expect, but being there on a daily basis is definitely a whole ball game. And so just knowing that what it all requires to be present, to be accountable, and just to ensure that we're there every day. But to recover, it definitely took some time, transition. I can honestly say that I miss being in Santa Fe daily.
Really? Yeah.
I openly say that because it is something I really got used to, being there every day for 30 days. Yeah. So it did take a lot of like transitioning out of that phase, but the work continues, and we're still working on stuff that took place in Santa Fe even to this day.
Yeah. Well, my last question. Oh my gosh, it just left my mind already. Oh, what is something you guys want people to take away from this podcast today?
I think it's like there's so many ways to get involved, right? And I think that sometimes it feels maybe like we're not doing enough, but step by step we are building what our community needs. And it might take one session, it might take 10 sessions, right? But I think it's the collective efforts that we do. It's taking us where we want to be, and it takes time, like I said, right? But I think it's just knowing that you have a say, you have a place to be there, get involved, show up, however it means for you to show up. Right? We mentioned many examples, but just be present, and we are here to support our communities. And my work is rooted in the values of representing my community, creating a space for them, and building that bridge between our communities and the people that elect us and represent us.
The main takeaway I want to say is, to get involved, and as simple as going to Santa Fe even one day, if not, just staying up to date with current like topics and current events, because it's important that we are there and advocating for our communities. And don't forget the power of prayer. And everyone has a voice, and it may take longer than others to find your voice, but everyone has a voice, and I want to encourage everyone to use that voice. because it's what's needed out there.
Well, thank you so much, Veren, Emmet,
Thank
for
you,
breaking this
Mariana.
down for us, making it feel more accessible. I know policy can feel very far away, but I hope this conversation connected it more to everyday lives. Make sure you guys follow the Semilla Project to stay updated and find out more ways that you can get involved. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.